afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the ACSOM Bulletin. It's Tuesday afternoon, it's double trouble. Some of the two days this afternoon, but Happy New Year to all of you. Patrick, I'm out of isolation now, you're out of isolation. How was your new year?
Good, a bit subdued, a bit like last year, but happy and healthy, so that's all you can ask for. And I'm glad our players are as well, getting a rest, letting the injuries heal. So just looking forward to getting back to the football, getting on with stuff.
Yeah, it's something we're all hopeful about. Whether that'll be this month or next, we don't know. But it's just a case of wait and see. But obviously having that winter break at that period in time gave us that extra wee bit of chance of hopefully getting a lot more into stadiums than this silly 500 number that we've plucked out of thin air, going to football matches. But in terms of New Year, just before New Year, it wasn't even January when Celtic had announced signings. I think that was a bit of a shock to us all, because we did expect these three players to come into the club, but I don't think we expected the business to be as done as quick and as sharply as it was due to Celtic's usual faffing about in any transfer window, never mind January.
No, and I think we spoke on the podcast about how Michael Nicholson can make his mark. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago I mentioned how he became the new CEO, and the best way he can make his mark and make a good first impression is by getting the signings right in the window, and he's certainly done that. He's got 3 guys that the manager definitely wants before the window's even opened, and there's now rumours about Jota and Carter Vickers on a permanent deal this month. So it's a great start to his time as the CEO, and I think we probably need more than 3 new players. I know getting those 2 guys permanently signed up is a massive bit of business, but in terms of this season, I think we probably need at least one other player in there. So hopefully he's watching the show and hopefully takes some advice.
Yeah, it'd be nice if he did. But I think, going back to Ange's comments previously on this, he said it wasn't going to be one transfer window fix. I don't think it's going to be a 2 transfer window fix, although the manager's probably a bit happier with what he's got just now. I don't think we're at where he would like to be at, just in terms of there's probably players still in the building that he doesn't think is going to be part of his plans. We'll get on to a few of those guys because it looks as if there should be so on the move. We've also been linked, of course it's January, we're going to be linked to loads of different players. There is some though that look as if they might have a bit of substance to it, so we'll cover them. And anything else you got to maybe cover. Obviously we looked the other night, we were chatting to each other on the phone about players' contracts that are going to be out, and that's something that I think always needs to be at the back of your mind when you're going into these windows, because if you look at some deals that are being done with some of the biggest players even in world football, if you let that contract run down, you end up not making anything. Not that I don't think we're going to make anything near what we would paid for Albion Agate and Vasilis Barkas, but I don't think we want them to go in a free window. It would be nice to get them off the wage bill. But on to the news that broke on Friday, Hugman, Ideguchi, Hatate and Maeda. We knew that these guys were likely, but again, going and signing the J-League's top goal scorer, we'll start with the one that came first and dies in, Maeda. What was your thoughts on that? Where do you think he's going to fit into this Ange Postecog's system? He's obviously played a full season out in Japan. As I say, his record speaks for itself. He's worked under Ange Postecoglu at Yokohama Marinos. What's your thoughts on this one?
It was the one I was most excited about, and I think that's just football and bias. The Ballon d'Or always goes to attacking players. You're always more excited about attacking players. So it's a bit of bias there, but I think of the 10 fastest sprints in the Japanese league, he's got 7 of them, and Kyogo's got 1. So that speaks for itself. You've got a really fast forward line. He's a top goal scorer. I think Kyogo ended up finishing joint 3rd top goal scorer, so you've got all the goals as well. So it's a really exciting signing, and he's actually worked with Ange. It's not like Ange has seen him playing for another team. He's worked directly with him for, I'm not sure how long he was there at Marinos, but Ange was there from late 2018, so that's possibly 2.5 years they worked together. So really, really exciting. And I'm not sure if he becomes an automatic first choice starter, because Abada's shown his quality recently. Kyogo and Jota obviously need to start. So whether he gets in the team straight away, I don't know. He's obviously just finished a full season, might need a bit of a rest. But I think he's ahead of a few players already because, Forrest has spent the last 18 months in the sidelines basically, and Mikey Johnson's not exactly impressed, although he is still quite young. So hopefully we'll see him soon.
Yeah, and as you touched on there, we went and picked up a player who Ange had just watched from Vissel Kobe and Kyogo Furuhashi. Look what he's did with him. What could he do with a guy that he's already worked off him selling, but in bringing him over and finishing top goal scorer. Maeda spoke in his just after they signed him out. Knowing these players and coming into the club with a group of players from the same league is going to help him. From the same country is going to help him. Obviously, having Kyogo there is going to help him. They know each other from the national setup and playing against each other in Japan. So, it's all about Ange. We've heard a lot about Maeda, Patrick. We know he's versatile. He's very much in that Ange Postecog mode. He can come in off the flank, can play up top. In terms of the free, what do you think his favoured position could possibly? I think it might be in that left-hand side and possibly moving Jota out to the right-hand side. But again, if we're going to have injury problems, I think it's another good option to have up top because we know that, so far Giakoumakis' injury record's not been great, and I don't think Albion is going to be part of the plans going forward.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one because you look at the left and you think Jota's the only one that can really be relied upon there. Not only that, he's arguably one of the best players in the team. You look at the right-hand side and it's a flip of a coin between Abada and Forrest, but, I think I've spoken before about how I'd quite like to see Abada tried through the middle. So maybe if you move him as a sort of backup striker option, you could put Maeda on the right or Jota on the right and Maeda on the left. So it's good to have these options, and I'm sure it will give Ange a good headache when picking the team against Hibs on the 17th. But if I was to pick, I'd try him on the right, keep Jota on the left, and Kyogo through the middle.
Yep.
Afternoon, Kevin. That is if Jota is fit. That is if Kyogo's fit. If Jota isn't fit, then obviously you'd play Maeda in the left because I think that's where he prefers to play, if not through the middle. But it's good to have these options, and hopefully we have options back to front as well. We can sign a few more players.
Yeah, it's good headaches for the manager to have. Would much rather that he's got a headache over having too many good quality players than trying to no disrespect to the boys that have come in from the B team, but having to promote them so quickly and put them into high pressurising games. Relying on Young and Moffat to come on and Dingwall and search a last gas winner, and then that came at St Mirren where we looked as if we'd been COVID ravaged, never mind St Mirren, but with the start 11 lineup. But it's good headaches to have. It shows that the manager's got the trust between the board. He's came out and he's credited Michael Nicholson for moving so fast, so quickly in the window. That's good to see that relationship is there and it's strong, and it needs to be strong for us to be successful because we've saw what happens when that eventually breaks down. You'll need to go back a couple of years to see that. So it's very exciting. I think Maeda's going to be one of the pick of the bunch, but one of the other pick of the bunch is Gucci. When a guy comes into any football club, Patrick, and tells people to call him Gucci, that there's definitely going to be something about him. He comes in, we're expecting him to be a kind of defensive midfielder, central midfielder. What's your thoughts on this one again? Because these free deals, we're going into a market here, but we've only went into once, and it's came out absolute trumps for us the one time we've been in it. Recently, that is obviously we've been into the Japanese market before, but it's a market where Europe's just not really, looked at in great depth. If these three players come out, tops again, it shows that, you can talk about great structures and whatever else at football clubs, but unless you've maybe get somebody that just understands specific leagues, which we've got in Ange Postecog, an absolute diamond in that maybe these markets will continue to go untapped, and hopefully we can exploit them even further. I know Ange has spoken about Iran and other places, but what's your thoughts on the Sekou Taguchi?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of can't believe your luck with these markets being totally untapped. I mean, I don't think Kyogo would get a move to Manchester City or Bayern Munich or something like that, although I reckon you would hold his own at that level. But the fact that teams like, maybe a Dortmund or an Arsenal or something aren't looking at these guys, especially when you get people like Iniesta in that league. I think David Villa was there as well. Someone might correct me on that, but
Bojan's now over there too.
Is he?
He disappeared for a wee while. He went to Vissel Kobe to be Kyogo's replacement.
Bojan?
Mm-hmm.
Did they go straight from Celtic? Because remember he was signed for Celtic.
Yep. Uh-huh.
No, it does make a change. I mean, Ideguchi's came in and saying we all need to call him Gucci. It makes a change from Moritz Bauer coming in and saying I'm not actually that good, but I'll give my all. I mean, what a start that was.
Barkey saying he prefers to put left back than goals.
Aye. In fairness, he says he didn't like friendlies, and after watching that West Ham game, you can understand why. But I liked his press conference. It was quite funny. You just sort of look forward to seeing these people. And I think, is it Dan Orlowitz? I think his name is the Australian journalist who's in Japan, or certainly writes for the Japanese Times. He said it's actually fair value getting him for about 800,000, whereas the other two are absolute steals. So if you're signing a player for 800,000 and it's fair value, he's in to do a job, really, isn't he? I think someone called him the Japanese Scott Brown. I'd be very surprised if we got the next Scott Brown for 800,000, but if he ends up being even half the player Bruni was for the next 3 or 4 seasons, I'd be quite happy with that. Yeah,
and if he can win half the trophies that Bruni won in his career for the next 3 or 4 seasons, that would also be very nice.
Yeah,
just to clear this one up, Giacomakis is back in training. He's out of rehab, and I think he returned, just got out of rehab just before Christmas, I think, so he will definitely be back in training. So there's a lot of options there. Please keep coming with the comments. I see chat about Ewan Henderson, about Lee Griffiths. We are going to get to these topics later on, so please do come back in on them. And finally, Patrick, the last signing that came out in Hogmanay was Rio Hatate. People were a wee bit worried when he was described as a utility player. But, again, it shows that it's Ange ball players, if you want to call it that, because you're not just signing a guy that's going to play in one position and one position only. He can play left back, he can play midfield and on the wing. Is the manager just going to use him purely as a squad player, or can you see him, in a run of games getting to start? Because I think now with Greg Taylor coming back in from injury, I think Greg Taylor's going to be Ange's man at left back unless there's any injury. I don't see him being shifted unless he has a couple of stinkers. So what's your thoughts on Rio Hatate coming in? Where do you think he's going to be executed, or do you think he will purely just be a squad player that Ange will be able to use off the bench?
I've seen a lot of people chat online about how he's sort of in that Roger Turnbull position. So, I'm not sure if these guys know anything more than I do, but he's listed as a left back or centre mid on that transfer market website. So maybe they're just picking it up from there. If he's an Ange player and he can play in a multitude of positions, I think he'll end up playing a multitude of positions. Could see him at left back, could see him at midfield, could see him, I think, even at left wing. He can play at left wing as well. I don't know. I think he's one of the two that's been described as a steal, and I think we signed him for 800,000 or 900,000. So he'll be a half decent player. If that's a steal, we're paying just under £1 million and that's a bargain, then you sort of expect big things. And I look forward to the first game where we see all 4 Japanese guys start, because that should be, if they're all up to speed and they're all fit and they're all 90-95% fitness, that should be an interesting watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, and hopefully all 4 of them might even get a result at Livingston. You never know. It's a good number of players that might be able to come in and help us at that venue where we seem to always struggle. But I think it's very positive to get those deals over the line. At the point we've signed them, I think a lot of people, Patrick, were still sceptical going through these months on whether it was just all talk and whether we would get these guys in, but we did it really quickly. We've acted fast. What kind of message have we sent here, or have we? Is it just a case of Celtic doing their business properly, and that what we've come to expect is pure business before we're just acting now like a big football club?
Let's hope so. I mean, I think in the past we were sort of beginning plans of the January transfer window on the 1st of January. Whereas Michael Nicholson, these rumours have been going on for weeks. I think Nicholson and the manager have been starting preparations a month in advance. And, credit to Ange, because since he landed in London 7 months ago, he's been spinning about 7 plates all at the one time. And he's done a phenomenal job, keeping at least 6 of them up at all time. But I think, the business isn't done yet. We've made a really, really good start to the window. And if we finished the window with signing 3 players, ordinarily you would say that's pretty good. But we're all sitting here on the 4th of January saying we probably need at least one more player. So to be very, very clear and very blunt, it's been good business, but we need to do more. And that will be the yardstick. That will be whether it's success or failure, because I think we could win the league with the squad that we've got at the moment. I think it becomes more likely if we get one more quality player in. Mm-hmm. So it's been success so far, but still need to sign another body.
One of those guys that have been linked that could add something different to the Celtic team is Hannes Wolf from Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's 22. I think he has scored against us in the past. Somebody's seen that in the chat. That was a game I think Craig Gordon threw the ball at him.
Very kind of him, that,
Gordon to make a mistake in European football for Celtic there. What would your thoughts be in this one? Because this is a one that just kind of came out the blue. I think when the link came at first, Patrick, everybody was going, don't know about that. It seems to be growing a wee bit arms and legs. Do you think this is possibly one that we could get in and loan?
Yeah, I mean, it was a rumour. I think it was maybe like the day before the day after Christmas or something, about 2 weeks ago, and people thought, that's a nice link. Probably won't happen, but, good player. Good that we're looking in those directions. And over the past 2 or 3 days, it really has, as you say, going arms and legs. And I think it might be another Maeda or maybe another Jota type signing where we get him on loan and then there's an option to buy. And that's another thing that we have really improved on. With Patrick Roberts, we got these loans and there was no option to buy. And then, I think Elanusa was the same. I think it wasn't set in stone one way or the other. I think we probably could have signed him, but it wasn't within the original deal. So it's good that we're making these options available to ourselves. I think Hannes Wolf would be a brilliant signing. You wonder where it leaves everybody. I mean, where does it leave guys like Turnbull? I mean, he won't be back in, either in training or playing first team football until late February. If we've got Hatate, Rogic and Wolf with McGregor behind, Turnbull all of a sudden is 5th in the pecking order and there's only 3 spaces. And you wouldn't have said that 12 months ago. I mean, he was our best player 12 months ago.
And he's played every game under Ange as well.
Up until he got injured, every game he was available, he's played. I think he started every game he's been available, which, really, really impressive. But no, to answer the question, Hannes Wolf, brilliant signing. I mean, you don't play, I think was it Salzburg and Mönchengladbach he's played for, and those are Marco Rose's teams. So, and that was the guy, he's struggling a bit at the moment, but he was one of the top contenders when, eventually we gave it to Neil Lennon 2.5 years ago. But I think he's a quality player, and I'd like to see him, sign for Celtic. It's no guarantee that it'd be a success, but he's playing in the top leagues, and he's a young player, and he's exciting, and he's played well against us, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, and Johnny's come in here in the comments to say we don't make a profit alone. I think that is something that Celtic might be even looking at just now, Pat, in terms of the whole structure of it. We've heard a lot of plaudits come out the club about that, player trading being essential to the club's finances, especially in the world that we're living in just now. We've got uncertainty around fans. People were a bit concerned, I think, that if this does go on longer, it's going to affect our finances and ability to spend. But in terms of what you're talking about there, Patrick, just getting that option to buy in there, we're going to come on to the 2 guys that we've obviously got that with just now. One looks as if it could possibly be edging closer, and it's probably a steal for the money that we're going to do in that. But Elanusa was one I totally agree with you on. He was top man for a lot of the time last season when he was featured, he was in a bad team. He wasn't really playing in his natural position either. If you remember, we were executing him in that kind of number 10. I remember playing him up front and we were playing that kind of 4-4-2 diamond type thing. It just seemed to be
the 3-5-2 as well. It was either left wing back or striker, and it didn't really work.
But yet he still scored goals for us. And I think you would have probably, had you punted him last season, don't know what the asking price would have been for him with an option to buy. But getting those deals in is always a good option for us, because if it's a player that we fancy and we've got that there, and we do develop them, I think we both would agree that we trust the manager to develop anybody that comes into the club just now. Then player trading does come into it, so it's one to look at. In terms of ins as well, Patrick, we spoke earlier on strikers. We've also got Kenny. I've been linked with from Sligo Rovers. This looks as if it'd be one that would go. Don't worry, folks. Not John Joe. It's Johnny Kenny. Just to be completely clear about that. Probably looks like it would be a kind of Joey Dawson type thing, where we sign them, but they go straight into the B team. Is it also a positive sign that we're doing that? Because there's somebody signing these players at the club. I would hope it's Ange Postecog. Joey Dawson didn't really look out of place against St Johnstone. I know people would say bought with the table, St Johnstone poor side, but still, step up, I think, from the Lowland League to the SPFL. There's still a step up there to be made, and they looked very comfortable. So again, this is all good planning and preparation for the future.
Yeah, 100%. And I know he's Irish. Is he playing in the League of Ireland at the minute?
Yes, he plays for Sligo Rovers. Yep.
Yeah, so we've probably got more than one guy over there, but we've got at least one guy over there who's watching these players, and it's not just Dermot Desmond picking his mate's grandson up or something like that. We all sort of wondered what was happening with Liam Scales. A lot of guys who watched the League of Ireland said, this guy could be a success, don't write him off just because he's playing at this level. And he's held his own when he's come into the team recently. He's kept Adam Montgomery out, and Adam Montgomery was the preferred option a few months ago when Taylor first got injured. So, yeah, competitive spaces at left back. I'll not pretend to know anything about Johnny Kenny. I've probably seen as much as anyone else the clips on Twitter that are about 3 minutes long. Looks good for a young player. Quite happy to sign these guys for a sort of nominal fee, put them in the youth team, see what happens in a couple of years' time. But yeah, as you were saying about player trading as well, I don't think it would do Michael Nicholson any harm to look at Brentford, because their rise through the leagues is all about player trading. It's all about, buy a low, sell high. It's like, the sort of stocks trading people, but it's extremely impressive what they've done. They're a very modern football club, very progressive football club, and I think that's what a lot of people want for Celtic, because the only way we're ever going to make any sort of challenge in Europe is by following a model like this. Maybe, I'm not sure Benfica are sort of known for player trading, but they certainly get that big fee for João Felix from Atletico Madrid a few years ago. So it's really important that we cash in at the right time, because I think me and you have spoken before. If you look at Cham, Simunovic and Boyata, those are guys that left for nothing, and we could have got 20 million total for the three of them. And it might leave you short for 6 months, but we should be prepared at all times for an £8 million bid for a player that we signed for 1 million. I mean, it's just that it's the environment we operate in, and I hope Michael Nicholson understands that. And it's a lot more complex than, saying it on this podcast. It's very hard work, but it is necessary if we want to progress as a football club. Yeah, and it's doing your due diligence in terms of, what is there, what is out there, that if we do lose a player, we can go and get something or an automatic replacement for them, which, I think there was a lot of worry around, when Odsonne Edouard would eventually depart the club, would we have a replacement? And I think Hugo Furuhashi, he's been that man, and it replaced him almost instantly. It was also the same with Moussa Dembele. There was planning there in place that when Moussa did leave Celtic, the Odsonne Edouard would be the natural replacement, and it happened. And as you say there, when players are, Beaton's another probably example, although he's having a great season for this, if you'd have cashed in on near Beaton, at his terms of probably when he was at his highest level, and you were getting linked to a £10 million bid and all that stuff, could have probably went out and signed the number 6 at that point in time for half the money. So in terms of trading, the manager is never going to probably have a settled side at Celtic for far too long. Players will come and go. As you say, it's the market and the league we operate in.
hopefully as we start to progress into a European structure that's a wee bit more settled in terms of if you win the league in Scotland, you're going straight into that Champions League. That could settle it right down for us, and it could settle it down for any Scottish team. If they get that place in Europe, that you've got that stability there, and you're not relying on the qualifications, because the gap in money and prestige in terms of finance from the Europa League or the Conference up to the Champions League is an absolutely huge gap. The only way we're going to get a settled side is if we're doing that on a continual basis. But Eric's came in here in the comments, always very welcome. He said 11 goals in his debut season at 18, 6 highest scorer in the league. It's very impressive. It's players that we should be looking at, as you say. I mean, even John's came in here to say that he thinks Liam Scales should be ahead of Taylor. For people that did probably turn their nose up at the league over there, it says something that a player like Liam Scales has come in and proved that he can come in and slot into the system well. It took a while for him to come into the team, Patrick, but now he looks as if he's certainly part of the squad and can do a job for us, Liam Scales.
100%, and I don't think he's up to the level of Taylor, because I think Taylor has actually improved this season. I know he's not everyone's favourite player, but his passing's very quick. He's not the best crosser of the ball, but in Ange's system, he's playing in the middle in that inverted fullback. It's all about getting the ball to the forwards as well, so it's not like Rodgers and Lennon where you're trying to get to the byline and cut it back. You're sort of helping build up play and create a good quality chance for your forwards instead. So I think Scales has struggled with that, but then again, he's not actually played a lot of games under Ange. I think he's only started the last handful, so maybe with time he might overtake Taylor, but I think out of the three, I mean, you're automatically writing off Bolingoli. There's another player that you can probably try and offload this window, but out of the three, I would stick with Taylor personally.
Yeah, and it's another big wage. It's probably coming at the football club just now that a player that's not going to feature. Obviously, Adam Montgomery's there as a left back option too. Me and you debate all the time. I do think he's a left winger and a left back, but he can be played at left back. And obviously we've now got Hatate there, so we've got a lot of options there. I don't think Bolingoli would go amiss. Boone Warrior, one of our always regular contributors on a Tuesdays, come in to say Taylor flat back, forward back. If you're going to maybe a 3-5-2, which you've executed actually quite well at McDiarmid Park, Scales in at wing back. Yep, Scales looks very comfortable probably at either or position, Patrick. We've not really seen him even at centre half just now. I think you even forget sometimes he can play there. There's a lot of chat in the chat, and I know it's been something that's came up again because we always seem to get linked to him. Martin Boyle, that old name that appears every transfer window for the past God knows how long. I think we're 3 managers down the line and still Martin Boyle's getting linked to his, Patrick. Personally, I think that ship's well sailed for us. We're going to come on to you and Henderson because obviously the link there with Hibs. What would be your thoughts on Martin Boyle? For me, I don't think it's one that Ange would look at. Obviously, if we did go and get him, more than happy to welcome him into the team and hope he would do well for the club, but it's not a player I think that we are looking at. I probably should be looking at. We're doing good business in terms of looking at other leagues. I don't know if Martin Boyle would be the right option for Celtic at this moment in time.
No, and when you're looking at Japan and you're looking at player trading, it's all about getting best value for money, and I think Hibs said that they wouldn't accept anything less than 3 million. We're getting 3 guys from Japan for something like 3.2 million. Mm-hmm. It's just not the way to do things. If it's the last day of the window and you've left yourself short and you've signed nobody, then maybe Hibs would take 2.5 or something, or 2 million if they're desperate for cash or something like that. But at the same time, if we're running a football club properly, you're not leaving yourself short at the end of a window. I know Martin Boyle's been at Hibs for a few years, so he must be a fair age, maybe late 20s, I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me in that. He's a quality footballer. Hibs fans seem to think he's the best player in Scotland. I'd love to know what they're on when they're watching him, because there's 10 or 15 players in Glasgow ahead of him. I don't think he's a bad player, but I wouldn't spend more than 1 or 2 million on him. And there are, I think, 4 guys at our club who are wingers who are ahead of him, in my opinion. And when you're looking to progress as a football club, you don't buy players inferior to the guys that are already starting. I think you try and look to better yourself at every opportunity, and you do that constantly. I mean, I think quite a few of our managers have said, I'm not going to sign a stopgap player. If a signing isn't right, it's not happening. And Martin Boyle isn't the right signing. I'd rather play I'd rather play Ewan Henderson out of position on the wing, or persevere with Mikey Johnson, than spend $3 million in Martin Boyle, because it's not one that makes sense for me. I don't think it's good value for money.
Yeah, I think even, I don't know what Paul's thoughts on Martin Boyle is, but, he's seen quality, not quantity. I don't think we should be just buying players for the sake of it in terms of trying to help the squad. We should certainly be buying players that suit the system. Sean's came into it to say no to Martin Boyle, losing enough players to internationals, and he has no resale value due to his age. That's another thing. The link will be there because Martin plays for Australia. I'm not too sure how much Ange actually picked him, because I think Martin's been one of the guys that's came recently to the Oz national team, and yeah, I don't think there would be any sell-on value there at all for him. I don't think we'd develop him to anything. I think what you see is what you get. People are asking Boyle or a half-fit Forrest. What would your thoughts be in this one, Patrick? Because I don't think Forrest is somebody you're probably going to shift at the club either. He's been there for a long, long time. If you can get him a bit of fitness and get him into the team, can be an important player for us. But would you rather just stick with James Forrest rather than go and spending the dough on Martin Boyle and look at other positions to strengthen?
That's exactly it. I mean, a half-fit Forrest, you don't need to spend any money. Martin Boyle, you would have to spend $3 million. And I think he's playing second fiddle to somebody. If you've got Forrest, Jota and Maeda, that's 3 guys for 2 positions. So he's already fourth choice. You're not spending $3 million for a fourth choice winger, especially one possibly in the peak of his career, who is the star man for the club he's currently at. Whether he would want to move to Celtic to sit on the bench for 60% of the games, I don't think he would. It's not a transfer that makes sense to me. No doubt he's a good player. No doubt he would play well for Celtic when he's picked, but it's not one that makes sense, and I wouldn't go for it.
So on that one, that's one in that, there's a link there from Hibs to Celtic. One out that could be going to Hibs, so you've already touched on there, is Ewan Henderson. But yeah, a strange one, this, Patrick, because timing, I think, is everything in football. We've seen him be handed his debut in chance under Brendan Rodgers at the very tail end of it. He played in that final game at home to Motherwell. He then played in Neil Lennon's first game back at Tynecastle. That great splitting ball through that helps us go and get that goal scored by James Forrest after Ollie Burke. Remember him? Passed it over to him. And then comes in last season, dead rubber against Lille, French champions. Go on to be French champions. We weren't French champions at the time. Comes in as a cracking game out in the wing. We hadn't really seen him being executed there. Disappears again. We've got a dead rubber against Real Betis. Comes in, scores a goal, disappears once more. What's your thoughts on Ewan Henderson there? Because I think there is a player there, Patrick, and he's a player that I would rather we would look to develop rather than get Martin Boyle in.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know whether I've not seen enough of him, but I think he's quite a slow player. But at the same time, David Turnbull's quite slow, and Ange started him in every single game. Where he plays at, I'm not too sure, because you've got so many guys ahead of him. But the fact that he's barely featured at all is extremely strange, especially early in the season when we had very little options. I think, a move to... I've not actually heard that rumour. I didn't see that, but if there is a move to Hibs in the cards, I think that would be a good move from him, because it's, they're probably looking to play an attractive style of football under Maloney. They're a top half of the table team. He's playing against the same teams that Celtic play against 80% of the time, so I think it makes sense, especially if he's going to get game time. Everyone who watches him regularly seems to rave about him, and whenever he plays in the first team, he seems to do quite well. But at the same time, that's Lennon and Postecog, and even Kennedy last season. There were so many dead rubber games, and he didn't get a didn't get a look in. I don't know if he was out on loan or something, but he just doesn't seem to get the chance. And
He went
he's
to
either
Dunfermline, I think, on loan for a wee while, and it really took off again. Obviously, it was a loan deal out to Ross County, I think, the season or 2 seasons before that, and it never really took off.
I don't know if he's the worst player in training or something, but whenever he plays for the first team, he's done pretty well. So it's a bit of a headache. I'm sure Ange knows better than us, because we've seen him for maybe 500 minutes total. He sees him every single day. So it's a strange one, but if there's a chance for him to go to Hibs and play some football, I think that's a win-win.
Would you prefer it to be loan or permanent? I'd probably prefer maybe a loan deal. Yeah, it looks as if it might be a permanent 3.5-year contract to make go there too.
All right.
But I'd prefer it probably be a loan deal, because I still think there's a bit of development to go with him. But again, talking about Celtic, youth players, younger players coming in, we're being reminded in the comments, Patrick, by Jake Ryan and many others, Dembele, he has not disappeared. Karamoko Dembele is still there. He's back in training. Yep, because few people coming in reminding us Dembele. Patrick, his contract is up very, very soon. What's your thoughts on this? Because I think that there could be potential here for Karamoko to come into the side.
Yeah, we're now in January, so he could, walk into Anfield and sign a pre-contract with Liverpool if he wanted this afternoon. You obviously don't want that to happen. He could probably go to he is 18, so he's probably looking for first team football at this stage. Maybe not any team in the world, but he could probably walk into about 95% of the clubs in the world and they'd be happy to take him. The fact that there's been no rumours would suggest to me that we've not offered him one, but I find that improbable. I can't imagine we've not offered him one. So the fact that we must have offered him one and there's no rumours at all maybe suggests that he's not interested, he's had his time, he's away. I suppose we'll never really know, but all I can say is, it's really, really important that we try our hardest to sign this guy in a long-term deal. I think he was on a 2-year deal and there was a 1-year extension activated. I think John Kennedy, just before he stepped down as interim, confirmed that in one of the press conferences. I think it was probably him that only wanted a 2-year deal as opposed to Celtic. Celtic probably wanted to give him a 10-year deal. At the same time, where does he fit in? I think he was probably second choice to Forest last season. Forest is second choice to Abad at the minute, so is Karamoko third choice. At the same time, I think he played the 2 friendlies he was fit for during pre-season, and he got that really, really nasty tackle. Mm-hmm. It's just another headache, but I think, the guys in charge of the money at the club, the people in the boardroom and behind the scenes in the football department need to try their hardest to sign this guy in a deal, because it's almost already too late, because you can't get money for him. It's a pre-contract situation now, so you can't get money, so you just need to throw as much money as you think is worth at the situation and hope that he stays for another couple of years, because working under Ange, I'm sure is an attractive prospect for him. And, something, maybe we could touch on later is maybe giving Ange a new deal, because he's won a trophy. He's quite clearly a great manager. And I'm not sure how 12-month rolling contracts work. I don't know if it's up in May or up in 12 months, but, if a Premier League team comes in from him, you just don't know what he's going to do. So I'd like to see a sort of Brendan Rodgers situation there, where we give him a 4 or 5 year deal. Even if he wants to leave, we get some money from him.
Yeah. This one will be throughout the comments. Karamoko and Dembele back into the side and given a chance on Martin Boyle. What would you prefer for this to happen? People are saying it's May 2022, but it looks, from what we've seen online, as if it's 2021 that Karamoko's out of contract. Patrick, maybe check that one out. But
he must have left 7 months ago then, because May 2021
is
past.
May 2021, 2022. I'm talking, listen, New Year, COVID,
you've lost track of time.
Whatever else. I've lost track of time. That's exactly what I'm in 2022 now, that's right. But yeah, it's one that, again, we're seeing players being given a chance when you've set up getting into the first team, but for you and Henderson, just as if it's just not going to happen just now. We probably I think he will leave the club this window. Wish him all the best, because I think there is a player there, and we'll see if there is a player there under a good coach in Sean Maloney. One game you're going to be. The rumours are going to get even further, Patrick, because we spoke about Chris Julian last week and whether he would return or not, and then 2 days later, just like magic, that he's back, he's coming back. So Ange just said, it'd be like a new player. What's your thoughts on him coming back? Because it's been Vickers Starfelt for a long, long time as a defensive partnership. Could Chris Julian come into the team? I did a poll on Twitter when that news broke, and everybody, Julian get the overwhelming majority of votes. Can you see him once he gets back up to fitness and game time being a starter?
Possibly. It's the longer, it's the Evik Sviatchenko situation, really, isn't it? The longer players are out, the better they become. Especially players like Julian. He was a fan's favourite and really likeable player, likeable guy, scored a lot of goals. It's certainly something we're missing, because for all their physicality and their height, Starfelt especially gets on the end of corners and well over the bar and well wide. So if you can get Julian in the end of those corners, you're probably scoring more goals. Starfelt's a tricky couple of games. I think his head went in the second half of the cup final. I think the referee changed his game up in Dingwall with that first booking, and then at Perth, I don't think he had a bad game. He just had a bad pass, and when you look at the pitch, actually, it's quite easy to misjudge those passes. I think he's unlucky there. So his form isn't as bad as certain people are making it out to be. But it's a flip of a coin in my opinion. I really like Julian, but I really like Starfelt as well. So. We played with a back three at Perth, so you could see all three of them come in. You just never know.
We could possibly try the back three. We never know. It looked to be okay. Eric's come in to say the fact that Ange doesn't play him on Tuesday, he's been injured since a bad horror challenge against Bristol City in pre-season. It's not that the manager doesn't fancy him. He's been injured for months, so I do expect him to return and probably be given a chance. We're going to need to mention his name because it came up once again, Patrick. Looks as if Dundee might possibly terminate the contract for Lee Griffiths, whose contract is up in 2022 at Celtic. Get that one right myself for the years. He's up in 2022. We gave him that year extension. Don't know who gave him the year extension, and then everything came after it. There was people asking in the chat, would we take him back or not? For me, absolute no-go. I think there is too much unity between the support, players and the manager just now for that to even be possibly questioned. I don't think Ange would probably be interested in him anymore now. He's not did anything out on loan to prove he's anywhere near the levels he's got. I wouldn't be surprised if Dundee terminate his contract and frankly Celtic then terminate his contract.
It's just the ongoing saga, really. You think you're rid of him and then, something else happens. I think we probably gave him, we had until I think it was the 30th of June to extend his contract, and we let that run out, probably almost certainly because of wages, because he was probably on, 15,000 or something. We let it lapse, and then first day we sign him up, and I think I heard of him, it was like a third. He's only on 4,000 or 5,000. And Dundee will be covering some of that, probably nowhere near half. I think we done it out of desperation, really, because I think we knew Edward was going to leave in the window. We knew Ajeti probably wasn't up to it. Whereas Griffiths, even if it was 5 years ago, did perform. Giacomakis wasn't even in the radar. Kyogo wasn't in the radar, not to us anyway. So I think it was a bit of desperation. I don't think he should play for Celtic again. He's performed for a total of 2 months in the last 4 years, and that was at the beginning of 2020. I know he had his personal issues for 6 months. I totally get that, but that's a total of 6 months out of 4 years, and you've got all the off-field stuff. You've got so many off-field incidents that you could write a book about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know about terminating his contract. I'd probably look for another loan. you're actually scraping the bottom of the barrel there. You're probably looking at either Livingston or a second division team, like a championship team. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, especially for the amount of goals he scored for Celtic. Because that record's there for itself. But, I think everything that's went on, it was a clean slate. Danielle, again, one of the regular contributors, just came in to say, could have easily done what Nelson did. New manager shown what he could do, but he didn't. And that, for me, is, at the very heart of this. I don't think it's going to go anywhere else. It is in the news today. I thought we would touch on it. Leave that one there because there's no point going to work.
What else can you say, really? What else can you say?
Two other players who have featured. Liam Shaw has played 2 competitive games for Celtic. Osazi Regidi's only played the 1. Both played against Real Betis, and obviously Shaw came on against St Mirren, I think the game was. There's a link there with Liam Shaw and St Johnstone, Patrick. He's obviously above the B team in terms of his age, so that's why he's not playing for the B team. What would you think about that deal? Would that be a good fit for Liam Shaw? I think St Johnstone's brought in a boy from Liverpool on loan. I do expect to bring in some more players, St Johnstone. It's been quite a turbulent time after losing Ali McCann. And is it Kerr that went down to England, Jason Kerr, their captain?
I think so, yeah.
They're not replaced him whatsoever. What would you think if Liam Shaw went to St Johnstone? Would that be the kind of move that you think would suit him?
I mean, if he's going to St Johnstone I think they've got 14 points from 20 games, bottom of the table, so the players that they're signing are players that are going to feature, so he'd get game time. Whether, there's been a lot made of how the B team and the youth team are all now playing Ange ball, so we obviously want everyone singing from the same hymn sheet. Whether you want to send a player to a club that certainly against 4 or 5 teams out of 11, they're putting 10 men behind the ball, they're not playing attractive football, the pitch is a bit of a state. Whether you want to send a player to a club like that, I don't know. I'm sure there are other options to get him game time, but if St Johnstone is the only option, then I'd maybe send him out, because if you're saying he's not getting game time for the B team, there's no point having him sitting on the bench or sitting in the stands. So as much as he wouldn't be playing Ange ball, he wouldn't be sort of learning our philosophy, he's probably not going to be a first team regular if he makes it at all for another 2 seasons or so. So yeah, get him the game time, I'd say. Maybe toughen him up or something. Yeah,
well, Sean's come in to say he thinks that the move to St Johnstone would be decent for him. Aaron's come in to say it might be a good move in terms of getting to know the league. Obviously, he's not featured too much. A Sheffield Wednesday team that was relegated to League One. He was one of the better players. Sheffield Wednesday fans seem to have quite a good opinion of him. One of our regular Tuesday contributors, AJSC Tech, saying thinks Shaw could get a slightly better team as St Johnstone, as he will be in a dogfight and not a similar style. That's a possibility. Maybe a move to Hibs, Dundee United, maybe somewhere that might suit him a wee bit more, but they try and play a bit of football. That's an interesting one. What would your thoughts be on Osazi Reguilón? I think from one of the reports I read, Patrick, it said that he was free to leave the club on loan in January to try and get game time again. He's not being featured into the youth team. There was concerns, obviously, about the size of our squad and whatever else. Would that be another player you'd like to see go out on loan, whether it be in Scotland or maybe down south again, to try and just get a bit of game time into him?
Yeah, I mean, it's more straightforward than Shaw, because it's just back to goal. I know we like passing out from the back, but again, he's another player that's probably at least 2 years away from possibly even being a starter. So maybe just get him used to defending first, because he is an extremely raw player. I mean, I don't think I've actually ever seen a player so raw play for Celtic. I mean, it's unbelievable. Not to say he's a bad footballer.
In the comments, he's still very raw. And actually, just sorry to interrupt there, but I don't know if we know what his preferred position is as of yet. I've seen him at right back, seen him at centre back.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's an absolute unit. I mean, I think he's younger than me. I think he's only 19 or something, maybe 20. So he's an absolute unit for his age. Obviously, get the physicality to play, defence, but also anywhere else in the pitch. It's just his footballing that you get sorted. So maybe just any team with a half decent coach, just get him used to playing against first team players, playing in the first team professional, league. Yeah, I'd send him out on loan, basically, is what I'm saying.
What would be your thoughts on the other guys? See a lot of chat in the comments around Vasilis Barkas, Albion Ageti, Ismaila Soro. Do you think there's any future for these guys at Celtic just now? One of the
No.
things I would add on this again though is Albion Ageti. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, and whether any team would want to take him with that hamstring issue just now, I think could be a real problem for us and trying to make short shift him out the building.
It would, but it would be good to get all these players moved on in the one window, but it's not always possible. So if you focus on, it seems quite strange to say this, but Soro, you're probably looking to move him on, because where does he come in?
Especially when you're signing midfielders from Japan, it's obviously going to slot in a bit above him in the ranking and the pecking order.
Yeah, I mean, in games where we're even remotely competitive, McGregor plays in the 6. In games we want to be more defensive, you've now got Gucci, McCarthy and Beaton. So he's already 5th choice, and it's the only position he can play. He can't play further forward, he can't play in defence, he can't run, so he's not a fullback or a winger. He's now 5th choice, and as bad as our injuries are, we do not need 5 players in the one position, because if it gets to that stage, you just bring in a youth player, and I'm sure we've got a more than competent youth player as a defensive midfielder somewhere. Even Scott Robertson coming back, does he then become 6th choice in the summer? I don't know where Luca Connell plays, but I'm sure he could play the 6th role the way that McGregor does. He's then 7th choice. I'm going on a bit here. You get the point.
You're really dropping them down the pecking order, man. He started at 4th and he's doing
I know, I'm butchering them here, but yes, Barkas, Soro, and in my opinion, Bolingoli as well. You just move those 3 guys on. Whether you get even if you get 2 out of 3, just save some money with wages, get bodies at the door, let these guys move on with their careers, because Soro's been here for 2 years now. He had a purple patch of about 3 months, 4 months. The rest of the time, he's been nowhere near the team. So just let him move on, because he's 23 now. So he should be establishing himself as a player. So, just move these guys on.
Yeah, and it's maybe at that age as well. I don't think he's not too old as Malia Soro. He's not a run of games. He popped into the team for that wee while last season. The less said about last season, the better. But he did come in for that run of games. He scored a cracking goal against Dundee United, if you remember right. But again, came in, then disappeared again, and it's one of those ones. Whether a loan would help him when we come back, we try and see. But as you say, we've got that. The amount of players we've now got that can play that position, that I'd be concerned for his game time and whether they would actually ever make the first team again, because he just seems to have disappeared even in the bench. I don't know if he's got an injury just now or not, but it looks as if he's just completely out the picture. One of the other guys we have been linked with, Patrick, is Albert Goodmanson. He's a Alkmaar. He's 24 years old. It's one that we've been linked with. Other teams in the league have been linked with him. What would your thoughts be in this one as well? I'd certainly be a wee bit more interested in this one than I probably would be in the Boyle deal, looking at, and it's like Icelandic winger from AZ Alkmaar. It's no disrespect to Hibs, but I think there's a player in here at 24 as well. There's still plenty of time to be developed here. What would your thoughts on Albert Goodmanson be?
I mean, I don't want to go on about this all the time, but that's another club. I'm not sure if it's the Moneyball man himself, but AZ Alkmaar, Midtjylland, Brentford, they're all in the same mould of really, really investing in behind the scenes analytics, data, progressive style of football, player trading. So, as much as it was a tough tie, I think we are better than AZ Alkmaar. So if he's overperforming, that's the type of player we should be signing, in my opinion. It's a well-run club, so if he's doing the business for them, he's worth a punt for us, in my opinion. So if we can get him for, if it's 3 million for him or Martin Boyle, then we're signing. How did he say his name? Goodmanson, Albert Goodmanson. Yeah, Albert Goodmanson. I think he's a young player as well. I'm not entirely sure. I've not seen a lot.
He's 24.
Younger than Martin Boyle.
He's out of contract this summer as well.
Well,
so we're not going to, if we get him in a pre-contract, to me that one's a no-brainer.
I think Hannah's Wolf is as well. I think he's potential for a pre-contract. I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, that's hands down. If it's him or Martin Boyle, then you're signing him. So, yeah, I mean, totally worth a punt. I'm not that impressed by his stats this season or last season. I think it's only something like 4 goals in 25 games. But I don't know how many chances he's creating, how many assists he's getting. So he certainly looked threatening against us. I mean, he was the one standout player. I mean, their centre forward was absolutely useless, I thought. Totally killed their game when he was, trying to create all the chances. So, yeah, I'd be willing to take a punt.
Yeah, I think that's a player we should certainly look at. And, again, it's doing our due diligence properly in terms of looking at players that are going to be out of contract. It's a market I don't think we've really exploited more recently. We're talking about right wingers, we're talking about midfielders, but again, I think there's still a concern, Patrick, about that goalkeeping position. I saw a graphic going about when the 3 Japanese boys had signed about potential starting 11 for Ange's side, and it looked as if 2 players in each position that I think everybody would be fairly quite happy about. Ralston, Juranovic, etc., Taylor, Scales, Vickers, Julian, Starfield, Welsh, etc., etc. Then it came to the goalkeeper's position, and it just had Joe Hart sitting as a very lonely figure. We've obviously got Vasilis Barkas. I do expect him to be one of the guys that departs the club, either in this window or in the summer. Scott Bain, I think his contract's up again in the summer. There was chat a couple of weeks ago about offering him a new deal. Don't know if the club will want to do that. Then we've got, Toby. I wouldn't even attempt his surname because I'll probably get it wrong. But as another option, he's been in the Celtic squad in Europa League. And obviously Conor Hazard, the man that was instrumental in that quadruple treble final. What's your thoughts on that goalkeeping position? Because it is a bit of a worry to me that if anything did happen to Joe Hart, that I think you could possibly be in a bit of trouble.
He's one where if you sign Wolf and Goodmanson, immediately your attention turns to a goalkeeper. It's only due to the fact we've got so many numbers in that position that we've not turned our attention to that actually, because Hart is the only one that you can really trust there. I've not seen a lot of Doing, and I've not seen a lot of Toby. I'm just going to call him Toby.
I think it's Oluwayemi is my attempt at his surname, but I don't know.
I will not attempt it. I will not attempt to better you there. He appears, all the guys who pay attention seem to rave about him. He appears to be the successor to Joe Hart in 3 years' time, but at the same time, we need a backup here and now for the next 2.5 years. Scott Bain's next summer, by the way. He's got 18 months left, so he's one that...
pity.
I know, what a shame. Well, I'd try and get money from him, to be honest, because it's either now or this summer you're getting money from.
What about a swap deal?
For Seagrist or something?
Possibly Seagrist is one that you could maybe look at, yeah.
Yeah, that seems the obvious.
He knows the city, Scott Bain. He knows the city of Dundee really well.
Yes, city of discovery. Just try and move him on. Get money, get a swap, get something. I don't like him. I think a lot of people wanted him to replace Gordon because he was allegedly better with his feet. I'm not sure how true that is now. He's not better than Joe Hart with his feet. He's not a good shot stopper at all. He's extremely poor. He's not quick either. We've all been really, really impressed with the way Joe Hart takes quick throws, quick goal kicks. He's extremely slow. He can't spot the pass or the run. 18 months left, that's another one I'd try and move on. Even if you persevere with Hart, Hazard and Toby as the 3, because you're not going to have 3 injured goalkeepers, surely not. Even then, you can call up, and I don't know if Doing's out on loan, but even if necessary, just cancel the loan as a sort of emergency procedure. But I'd get rid of Bain and Barkas this window if you could.
Yeah, I think, as Sean says there, I think there's a lot of people just, cast their mind back to last season, playing in that empty stadium, those big banners on the seats. And
Sparta Prague games.
Yeah, and Scott Bain looking a dejected figure. Whether he could resurrect his career at Celtic, I don't know. It's been a bit stop-start for him coming in under Brendan Rodgers, featuring now and then coming in permanently when Gordon was dropped, then Neil Lennon dropped him for Fraser Foster. He's certainly not at the level of Fraser Foster or Joe Hart. That's definitely something that's, not a bold statement to make. So it's one that, I'm sure Celtic will look at, because, there's that many bodies, as you say there, Patrick. We've got a lot of cover there, but who is, I think you probably need 3 goalkeepers. Who are the 3? One is definitely Joe Hart. Who are the other 2? One is probably Toby Oluwayemi. Who is going to be the backup? As you say, we're going to need somebody for 2.5 years.
And it's not like Zaluska, where he's a competent backup. He's not competent. He's just another body,
Yeah, and even then, I think you might be pushing. I remember Zaluska coming on in that semi-final against Inverness, and I had to feel that day as well. So,
great player. Great penalty taker.
Just a penalty taker, yeah, I'll give you that one. But, yep, we'll see. I thought this break was going to be a bit dragged out, but it seems to be moving quite quickly. Celtic are getting linked with decent players. They've already signed 3. Hope more comes in, but hopefully 2 guys that we've got with option to buys, and Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers are 2 of the guys who might even sign up permanently. And then we'll just see where we're at, Patrick. What would you be happy with? We've brought in 3 players so far, another 2?
I'd be happy with 2. I'd actually be quite content with 1, but I would be extremely disappointed if we end this window with only the 3 Japanese boys. Especially, we've actually given ourselves the whole of January to sign 1 player, essentially. So I'd take 1 player, maybe either goalkeeper, right back, winger, anything, just another body for cover, because it's been our downfall this season, not having adequate squad depth. We've done really, really well. 11 wins out of 13 since that Aberdeen game. I think it's something like 11 out of 13, 2 draws. If we repeat that form, you give yourself a good chance. I'm not sure you win the league, but you give yourself a good chance. So yes, 1 player and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think, as you say, there's a lot of time to get that business done. The squad has been the concern, I think, for everybody. Everybody was quite happy with the practical start 11 that we had, but another player coming in or 2 would be, a real bonus, I think, for us, as well as if we can get, if the Jota deal and Vickers deal don't happen this window, I don't think we're all going to be too worried, as long as they're edging closer and it's going to be done, and if it's done in the summer, absolutely fine. But another player in, and adding that bit extra depth to the squad and getting the manager to a place he's happy with. I don't think Ange Postecog was asking for anything above and beyond what he should expect as an expectation. So if there's more players out there, Celtic sign them up, I think, is our message on this Tuesday afternoon. We'll be back next week. Myself and Patrick, as per usual, Bulletin will be running every day throughout. We'll be keeping you up to date with transfer news, speculation, links, news signings, etc., etc. So please continue to tune in to A Celtic State of Mind. Have a lovely day, and thank you for joining myself and Patrick on A Celtic State of Mind.